In the ancient village of Ogudu, there was a sacred tradition that ruled over every household, like the sun ruled the sky. The law was simple, but unbreakable. The eldest daughter must marry before the younger, no matter the cost, no matter the pain. In this same village lived a humble farmer named Eze, his wife Ngozi, and their two daughters, Lina and Lami. Lami, the younger daughter, was known across Ogudu for her beauty, kindness, and humility. The elders often praised her, the women admired her, the young men respected her. Wherever Lami went, smiles followed. Lina, her older sister, was quite the opposite. She was proud, sharp-tongued, and stubborn beyond reason. Many villagers whispered about how she disrespected her elders and spoke harshly to everyone, even their mother. Eze's family lived in a modest clay house on the edge of the village square. It was old but peaceful, until the village tradition began tightening its grip around their lives. Lami had reached marriageable age. Suitors came, honorable, hard-working young men, but all were turned away. The law of Ogudu wouldn't allow Lami to marry until Lina did. Even if Lami found love, even if she waited for years, she had to remain unmarried until her sister walked down the path first. The fear of this tradition loomed like a dark cloud over many homes in Ogudu. Girls grew old waiting, men gave up and moved to other villages, and families were torn apart, all in the name of ancient law. Lami often found comfort in her mother Ngozi. The two shared a bond as warm as fire on a rainy night. But Lina was her father's favorite. Eze adored her fiercely, so much that people began to whisper that something about their bond felt unnatural. One evening, as Lami helped her mother prepare dinner, she asked gently, "Ma, is Baba really my father?" Ngozi paused, her hands still on the yam. "Of course, my child. Why do you ask?" Lami frowned. "Because he treats Lina so differently. Sometimes I wonder if he even sees me." Ngozi's heart ached. She took her daughter's hand. "Your father loves you, Lami. He just doesn't know how to show it. You're soft, kind, and he's a man who only understands control. You remind him too much of me." Lami blinked, confused. "But being kind isn't wrong." "No," Ngozi whispered. "It's a gift, and one day someone will love you for it." She smiled and added playfully, "Now, hurry up and marry. I want 6 grandchildren." Lami laughed. "6? In this economy? Ma, let's aim for 2. They both chuckled, their laughter softening the weight in Lami's heart. One bright market day, while Lami carried a woven basket filled with okra and smoked fish, she caught sight of a handsome stranger passing by. He stopped, turned, and smiled politely. "Excuse me," he said. "I hope I'm not being rude. May I ask your name?" Lami looked at him, surprised. "I'm Lami, Eze's daughter." He nodded. "I'm Jatau, son of Chief Makinda." She blinked. "I've seen the chief's children, but I don't know you." "That's because I left with my aunt when I was 7, he explained. "This is my first time back in the village since then." Lami's eyes lit with recognition. "Ah, the chief's city son. They talk about you." Jatau grinned. "Hopefully good things," Lami teased. "Depends on who's talking." They both laughed. And before parting ways, Jatau spoke again, his voice quieter this time. "I hope we can talk again, Lami. You've made Ogudu feel like home already." Lami nodded. "Maybe. We'll see." The next day, as Lami returned from the farm, she found Jatau waiting near the path. He smiled when their eyes met. "Lami," he said, voice calm and deep, "I know this might sound sudden, but I think I've fallen in love with you." Lami's eyes widened. "We only met yesterday." "I know," he said, "but I've heard of you long before now. My parents always praised one village girl, beautiful, humble, respectful. And when I saw you, I knew they were right." He stepped closer. "I searched for love in the city, Lami, but all I found were people who loved money, not hearts. My parents told me, 'Come home, you'll find her there.' And they were right." He paused. "I want to spend my life with you. Please, don't say no." Lami stared at him, speechless. His words were real. His eyes held truth. Finally, she whispered, "Jatau, I'm honored, I really am. But this is all happening too fast." "I understand," he said softly. "But sometimes, Lami, when your heart knows, it just knows." Lami's heart fluttered at Jatau's words. No one had ever spoken to her like that, with such honesty, such urgency. "I need time," she admitted, voice gentle. "I've never had someone speak to me this way before." Jatau smiled warmly. "Take all the time you need, Lami. I'll wait for you." They parted with a soft smile, but Lami's thoughts danced restlessly in her chest. Days turned into weeks. She thought of him often, his sincerity, his kindness, and the way he made her feel, seen, chosen. Finally, she said yes. They began courting officially, and soon Jatau surprised her with a proposal. "I want you to be my wife, Lami," he said one evening under the moonlight. "I want to take you back to the cities, to our new home. With my whole heart, I choose you." Lami's heart soared, but her smile faded quickly. She remembered the law of Ogudu, the law that had crushed many loves before hers. No youngest daughter can marry before her elder sister, even if love was real, even if happiness was near. The tradition demanded obedience. Jatau, though raised in the city, had never heard of such a custom. When he learned of it, he was stunned. "How can love be restricted by age and birth order?" he asked. "This is madness." Lami sighed. "It is law. My father, he believes in it more than he believes in me." Still, they hoped. They believed. But deep down, they feared the storm ahead. When Lami shared the news of their engagement with her mother, Ngozi, the excitement in the air faded into silence. Ngozi's smile trembled. "My daughter," she whispered, "you know your father. He will never allow it." Tears pricked the corners of Lami's eyes. "But Mama, I love him." "I know," Ngozi said, holding her daughter's hand. "I know." Meanwhile, in the city, Jatau shared the news with his parents, Chief Makinda and his wife. They listened carefully, then looked at each other with unease. "There is a custom in Ogudu," Chief Makinda said. "One your bride must honor. It is not just her decision. Her father holds the key." Jatau frowned. "What does that mean?" "If her father upholds the law, the only way forward is to marry both daughters." Jatau sat back, stunned. 2 wives. When Jatau's family went to Ogudu to formally ask for Lami's hand, they were welcomed politely. But Easy, Lami's father, made his position clear. "If you want to marry my daughter," he said calmly, "you must honor our custom. Lina, the eldest, must be married first, or you marry both." Lami's face paled. Jatau was heartbroken, but he couldn't bear the thought of losing her. So with a heavy heart, he agreed. The ceremony was simple yet shadowed by tension. As songs were sung and wine poured, the bridegroom stood with 2 brides beside him, one glowing with love, the other with pride. And just like that, Jatau married both Lina and Lami. When they arrived in the city, Lami was overwhelmed by what she saw: the towering buildings, the luxurious home, the glittering furniture. "My husband," she whispered, How are you, this wealthy?" Jatau smiled. "All this is yours, Lami. Everything I have, I give to you." Tears filled her eyes as they embraced. It felt like a dream, one that had somehow survived the storm. But for Lina, the city became a different kind of prison. She saw Jatau's affection for Lami. The way he smiled at her, protected her, listened to her. She, on the other hand, was treated like a shadow, a necessary condition, a formality. Lina's pride burned. She couldn't leave. She wouldn't, not after tasting the life she had always dreamed of. "If I cannot have his heart," she thought, "then I will fight until I do." She made a silent vow. Jatau will love me more than he loves Lami. One afternoon, Lami shared news that turned their world again. She was pregnant. When she told Jatau, his joy overflowed. He laughed, lifted her in his arms, kissed her forehead, but in the middle of this joy, Lena stood in the hallway listening. Later that evening, Jatau turned to her with a smirk. "Now that my real wife is pregnant, how much would it cost for you to leave us in peace?" Lena's face twisted in fury. "Who do you think you are?" she spat. "You can't just cast me aside. Tradition is tradition. I am your wife, whether you like it or not." She stormed into her room and burst into tears. But tears weren't enough. She picked up her phone and called her father. Back in Ogudu, Eze listened quietly as Lena cried. "He hasn't touched me, Papa. Not even once. But Lami is pregnant, and they treat me like I don't exist." There was silence. Then his voice cracked through the phone like thunder. "No, this cannot happen while I still breathe. A child from the younger daughter, before the elder?" The next morning, he summoned Lena to return to Ogudu. She went alone. Ngozi was at the market unaware. Eze welcomed her with a calm smile and promised, "I will fix this, my daughter. He will love only you when I'm done." He took Lena to a native doctor, a feared man in a distant part of the village. The man gave her 2 bottles. One to give Jatau, the other for Lami. "This will bind him to you," he said. "And the other will cleanse your path." Lena's hands shook as she received the bottles. She returned to the city with renewed confidence. But from the moment she stepped back into the house, Lami could feel something had changed. After her return from the village, Lena began acting differently, gentle, warm, and unusually kind toward her sister Lami. It was strange. The same Lena who once barely spoke to her now brought warm tea in the mornings and sat by her side like a long-lost friend. Lami was surprised. Lena smiled sweetly and said, "I've changed, sister. I just want us to be close again." Then she added something that caught Lami off guard. "I already know you're pregnant." Lami froze. She hadn't told anyone yet, not even her mother. The only person who knew was Jatau. That night, when Jatau returned from work, Lami confronted him gently. "Did you tell Lena about the pregnancy?" Jatau nodded, looking away. "Yes. I thought maybe it would push her to leave." Lami sighed. "You should have told me first." "She's still here, isn't she?" he said with a shrug. "Clearly nothing changed." Lami gave a quiet nod. "Well, maybe she's different now. Maybe Mama talked to her." But Jatau's face darkened. "Changed or not, I want nothing to do with her." The next morning, while Jatau was away at work, Lena knocked on Lami's door. "Pregnant woman," she called cheerfully. "Why are you still sleeping?" Lami opened her eyes to see Lena holding a tray of tea and scrambled eggs. "I made this for you," Lena said with a soft smile. Lami sat up slowly. "Thank you, big sister. I was actually hungry." She ate the food gratefully. But just a few hours later, Lami felt something strange in her stomach. Sharp pains began to ripple through her body. She tried to stand. She collapsed. They rushed her to the hospital. Jatau left his office immediately, driving like a madman. When he arrived, the doctor met him outside the emergency room. "I'm sorry," the doctor said gently. "We tried everything, but your wife, she's lost the baby." Jatau stood frozen. The words echoed in his ears. His dream of becoming a father, gone in a heartbeat. He clenched his fists as tears filled his eyes. "I need to be strong," he whispered. "She'll need me now more than ever." The doctor asked him to bring some items from home, clothes, food, anything comforting. Lami would be monitored for a week. Jatau drove home with a heavy heart. When he entered the house, he found Lena at the dining table, eating a warm bowl of porridge. Like nothing had happened. "Would you like something to eat?" she asked softly. Jatao stared at her, confused and furious. "I'm not hungry," he muttered, but Lena pressed on, her voice calm. "You need strength. She needs you strong." Slowly, she coaxed him until he gave in. She brought food from the kitchen, set it before him. He ate in silence. When he was done, he sat on the couch, mind clouded, emotions tangled. Something strange stirred in his heart. He couldn't explain it, and instead of rushing back to the hospital, he stayed with Lena. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Lami waited. She called Jatao. No answer. She called again. Still nothing. She called Lena. Nothing. Worried and weak, Lami called her closest friend Linda. "Please," she whispered, "go to the house. Check on them. I don't feel okay." Linda wasted no time. She reached the mansion quickly and entered. With the spare key, what she saw froze her. In the master bedroom, she found both Jatao and Lena asleep in the same bed. Her hands trembled. She quietly packed some clothes and food for Lami, just as requested. But before she left, Jatao stirred. He saw her. "Linda," he said sharply, "don't say a word about this." Linda turned, shocked. "If you speak," he warned, "your husband will lose his job. Remember, he works for me." Linda said nothing. She left, but her heart boiled with anger. Back at the hospital, Lami asked the question again as soon as Linda arrived. "Where is my husband? Why hasn't he come?" Linda sat beside her and forced a gentle smile. "He's not feeling well," she lied. "And maybe Lena isn't either. Just rest, Lami." Lami frowned. "Then why won't they answer my calls?" Linda reached for her hand. "Please, try not to worry. You've been through enough. Focus on healing." Lami nodded slowly, but her mind was not at peace. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. A few days later, Lami was discharged. Jatao arrived late to pick her up. He didn't offer an explanation. They drove home in silence, and when they arrived, Lena welcomed Lami with a cold, bitter face. The same woman who brought her tea just days ago now looked at her with burning eyes. Lami said nothing. She felt like a stranger in her own home. A week passed. Then one evening, Jatao sat with Lami in the living room. His face was tense. "I need to tell you something," he began. Lami looked at him, her heart thudding. "I've decided," he continued, "to officially keep Lena as my second wife. I know this isn't what you expected, but it's the truth." Lami sat still, her world cracking. She had lost her child, and now her husband, and the very woman who once promised to change, was the reason why everything changed. Jatao's words cut through Lami like a blade. "I've decided to keep Lena as my second wife." Lami swallowed hard, smiled faintly, and said, "You don't have to explain, Jatao. I already suspected it, especially when you stopped answering my calls while I was still in the hospital." Her voice cracked slightly, but she forced out a laugh. "It's fine. After all, you paid both bride prices. Tradition, right? Don't worry, I'm good." But inside her, everything shattered. As the weeks passed, the cracks in their marriage grew deeper. Jatao became cold, distant. He stopped giving Lami money for food, avoided her room, and spent all his time with Lena. Lami felt like a ghost in her own home. The warmth and love she once felt had turned into silence. Every night, Lami sat on her bed alone, remembering the nights they once shared. His voice, his laughter, his promises. Now his absence screamed louder than any argument could. She began to wonder what had changed. Why had he chosen her over me? One morning, Lami stood tall and told him calmly, "If you won't support me, I'll support myself. I'll find a job." But Jatao just scoffed. "Do what you want," he said. "Just know Lena is my priority now." Those words stung worse than a slap. Still, Lami held her chin high. She applied to every office and business in the city. Some ignored her. Some sent polite rejections, but she didn't give up. And finally, a call came. An interview. She dressed in her best, a simple blouse and long skirt, and walked into the company with nothing but courage. Her answers were confident. Her heart was steady. She spoke with grace, strength, and fire. A few days later, her phone rang again. She got the job. She danced with joy. The first person she called was her best friend Linda, who screamed with excitement. "We must celebrate!" Linda laughed. "This weekend, my treat, no sadness allowed." When Lami got home, she couldn't wait to tell her husband. "Honey," she said with a smile, "you won't believe it. I got promoted today." Jatau looked up slowly. "That's the big news. I thought you were going to tell me you were pregnant." He leaned back, his face cold. "When are you going to give me a child, Lami?" She blinked. "God's time is the best." "Well, that time better be now," he snapped, "or I'll send you out of this house." Lami's face tightened. "Then what about Lena?" she said sharply. "Isn't she your wife too? Why don't you get her pregnant and leave me alone?" She stood tall. "At least I've carried your child before. Can she say the same?" Jatau glared at her. "You're just a joy killer," he hissed, and she walked away without looking back. That weekend, Lami and Linda went out to celebrate the promotion. It was simple. Soft music, warm food, real laughter. For once, Lami felt free again, but when she returned home that night, something felt wrong. Her suitcase was sitting outside, her clothes, her shoes, her bag, and Jatau was waiting at the door. "Raymond, what's going on?" she asked, her voice rising. "I'm tired," he said flatly. "This marriage is not working, but you gave me permission to go out. You said—" "I said I'm done," he snapped. "You call yourself a wife, but look at the time. Coming back from clubbing like some city girl." Lami's chest tightened. "You said I should go and enjoy myself." "Just go," he shouted. "I've made up my mind. Go and never come back." Lena stood quietly in the doorway. She didn't speak, she didn't blink. She simply watched her sister crumble and said nothing. It was exactly what she'd been waiting for, Lami begged. She cried. But Jatau's heart had turned to stone. So she gathered her things and went to Linda's house, her tears soaking into her pillow that night. A few weeks later, with Linda's help, she found a small apartment and moved out. She didn't look back. But peace didn't last long in Jatau's home. Without Lami, Lena changed. She stopped cooking, stopped cleaning, came and went as she pleased. At first, Jatau said nothing, but then came the late-night outings, the frequent trips back to Ogudu without telling him, the smell of strange perfume on her clothes. One evening as she walked in, past midnight he stood by the door waiting. "Where are you coming from, Lena?" he asked. She tossed her bag on the chair. "Don't start. I'm not Becky," she added sharply. "You can't control me." "I gave you this life," he said, his voice rising. "And I've earned it," Lena shot back. "Don't compare me to that quiet little mouse. I'm not here to kneel and beg for attention." He stared at her in disbelief. The woman who once fought for his love now spoke to him like a stranger. Ever since Lami left, Jatau's home had never known peace. Lena's charm had faded, her deceit had grown, and yet Jatau had no idea that the biggest storm was still ahead. At work, Lami's life was blossoming. Her boss, Mr. Jamiu, had begun noticing her diligence, grace, and quiet strength. He complimented her work often, helped with projects, spoke to her with respect, and over time, something else began to grow. One afternoon, as they shared tea on the office balcony, Jamiu finally spoke from his heart. "Lami," he said softly, "I know you've been through a lot, but I admire you. Deeply. I'd be honored if we could start again, not just as colleagues, but as something more." Lami, stunned, looked away. Her heart was fragile, but his honesty touched her. "Let's take things slow," she whispered. Weeks later, Lami said yes. And not long after, he proposed. With joy in her heart and peace in her eyes, she accepted. Their wedding date was set. Meanwhile, in Jatau's home, Lena was planning something else. One morning, as Jatau left for work, Lena's father, Easy, came to visit. But instead of chatting in the open, they locked themselves inside, speaking in hushed tones. Jatau halfway. To the office, remembered an important document he'd left behind. He turned back, but instead of driving straight in, he parked at the neighbor's compound and quietly walked into his house. As he approached the window, he stopped. Inside, he heard something that made his blood run cold. Lena and Easy were discussing. A pregnancy Jatau knew nothing about. She still doesn't suspect anything, as he said. Soon we'll take his money and disappear. Lena giggled. He's too blind to know what's happening. That's why I keep going to the village to see you. Jatau's heart stopped, and then came the final blow. I still can't believe you got me pregnant, Lena whispered. Outside, Jatau stumbled back, gasping like a man drowning. His world spun. He stormed into the house. Their laughter died instantly. You're disgusting, Jatau growled, his voice trembling. Both of you. Lena froze. Ezzy stood speechless. I heard everything, Jatau said. Lena, your real lover, is your own father. Lena opened her mouth, but no words came. You disappeared to the village every weekend. Now I know. Why, Jatau said. You weren't visiting home, you were visiting him. Then he turned to Ez. You snake. You gave me your daughter in marriage while you were sleeping with her yourself. Ez raised his hands. Listen, my son. Don't you dare call me that, Jatau thundered. Then Eze dropped a truth that no one expected. She's not my biological daughter, he said. Lami, who had just arrived to collect a forgotten document, heard this from the doorway and gasped. Easy lowered his head. My wife and I were barren for 10 years. We adopted Lena out of desperation. And then, by some miracle, my wife became pregnant with Lami. He sighed heavily. But when Lami came, all attention shifted. Lena felt abandoned, and I vowed to always protect her. Too much. Lena wept, her body trembling. I never meant for it to go this far. Jatau stared at them both. I regret marrying you, he said to Lena. You destroyed my home. You tore my life apart. You lied and you defiled everything sacred. Without another word, he walked into the bedroom, packed Lena's things and threw them out of the house. You and your shameful father, leave. And they did. Days passed. The scandal spread like wildfire. Eze became the talk of Ogudu village. When his wife Ngozi returned from the market and heard the whispers, she rushed to the village square, where the truth unfolded before her eyes. She collapsed in tears. How could you? She cried. I stood beside you for 30 years, and you destroy us like this? The village elders called a gathering. Eze was stripped of his titles and exiled from Ogudu. Lena followed him, broken and humiliated, with no place left to hide. As for Jatau, guilt consumed him. He had lost the only woman who truly loved him, so he went to find her. He arrived at Linda's house, his heart pounding. I need to see Lami, he said. Linda's face held no kindness. She's not here. Her wedding is next week. The words dropped like stone in his chest. What? She's marrying someone who respects her, someone who never made her feel like second place. Jatau stood still, tears filling his eyes. He remembered how she used to wait for him at night, how she used to ask if he was okay, how she used to beg for love he never gave. Now it was too late. He turned and walked away, each step heavier than the last. The wedding came, and it was beautiful. Lami walked down the aisle, not in shame, not in sorrow, but in strength. She wore a white lace dress stitched by village women, her smile glowing brighter than the sun. Mr. Jamu took her hands and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me." And for the first time, Lami felt truly chosen, not for duty, not for tradition, but for love. Final moral of the story: greed and deception may win today, but truth always wins tomorrow. The one who walks with honesty will find peace, but the one who lies will walk alone.